One of the most highly anticipated matchups of the entire NBA season has now come and gone, leaving us all a little bit underwhelmed. With the perceived MVP matchup between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic between the Philadelphia 76ers and Denver Nuggets in Denver in the altitude, Joel Embiid did not suit up and play. In this video, I want to talk a lot about the conversations between the medical staff, Joel Embiid, the perspective of Joel Embiid, the management from the Sixers medical staff, and of course the pending investigation from the NBA side of things as well. Now, before I dive fully into this topic, and I have a lot to get off this chest on this particular issue, probably the more frustrated that I've ever been on Joel Embiid not playing in a game, but it could ultimately be the right decision when we dig into the details and get into the specifics here. But before I dive fully into all of that, I do want to make sure you guys are smashing that subscribe button. At this point in time, 79.2% of you guys have not subscribed to the channel just yet. We want to get to that 3,000 subscriber mark by the end of January. Do not have much time to do that, and I guarantee we will be getting out at least 4 videos on this channel before the month is over to help get to that number. So appreciate all the support so far, and it is unfortunate that I come bearing some bad news in the overall topic of today. So I'm going to start off with just laying out the situation as a whole. That we know the ducking Jokic narratives that float around on Twitter in a very irresponsible way, and frankly, I think are garbage. That I don't think Joel Embiid ducks Nikola Jokic. It just straight up is not true. That if you want to look up their matchup between in past games, Joel is 6-2 against Nikola Jokic, averages more points, averages more rebounds, more steals, more blocks, and the assists for Jokic significantly below his league average when facing Joel Embiid. You look at the game highs that Joel scoring 47, and now the main point here, of course, coming where the games take place. That we just watched Joel Embiid drop 41 points and 10 assists in Philadelphia against Nikola Jokic a week ago. But my perspective on that is I do think you owe it to the guy to give him a chance to get his lick back, to give him walk into his arena, take it on his turf, in his conditions, and give him a chance. Now, the little asterisk next to that is injuries are more important than anything. Now, the question is, how injured is Joel Embiid? Now, I'll begin by rewinding to the Pacers game that took place on Thursday with Joel. That when that happened, which overall was a low-energy game by the Sixers, not one of their finer performances of the season, and in that second quarter, Joel goes up for a putback next to Miles Turner. It looked like they banged knees. He is down. He's holding his knee. One of the scarier moments of the season. I thought for sure he was legitimately injured. Ultimately, he stayed in the game. He returned after halftime. And by my eyes watching that game, he did not look like he moved the same in the second half. That I thought it was bothering him. The Sixers were already kind of being blown out in that game, so it wasn't a high-effort game from start to finish. But to me, it looked like his movement was not the same. And my reaction at the time was immediately, Joel is definitely going to tough it out, play through this game, be unable to play on Saturday, and then be completely just grilled for it on a national scale. Now, that's exactly how it played out, but the unfortunate reality is just how poorly the Sixers management was of things. That there was no mention of Joel Embiid on the injury report at any point leading up to this game. That there were legitimate national reporters tweeting out how Joel Embiid would be active. There was an official lineup dropped by Keith Pompey of the Philadelphia Inquirer with Joel Embiid in the lineup, and then shortly before it happened, Joel officially is ruled out. Now, I do want to, once again, put the asterisk next to if he's injured, if this is a legitimate injured, is the right decision to not play him in that game. It is more important to take the long-term view regardless of who the opponent is. But however, you set Joel up to look as bad as possible. That if there was any chance, if there was a 1% chance of Joel Embiid not being able to play in that game, he should have at least been on the injury report. Now, to dive into some of the specifics, and I'll begin right here with the tweet that Woj tweeted to rule him out. Joel Embiid is out versus the Nuggets. This occurred about 20 minutes before the game. And then Woj elaborates that Embiid is out with left knee soreness, sources say. Sixers training staff had concerns while watching Embiid during his warm-up routine and made the decision to sit out versus Denver today. Sixers are without Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Tobias Harris. Now, my quick aside here is I will give a shout-out to the team for showing up and competing without their 3 best players. That we saw B-Ball Paul drop 30 points. Pat Bev have an offensive masterclass with 17 points and 11 assists. The team competed without these guys. But obviously, the matchup loses its allure without getting this heavyweight throwdown between Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. That, for a point in time, it looked like it was going to be Joel and the Sixers hospital squad with Pat Bev, obviously no DeAnthony Melton, no Tyrese Maxey, no Tobias Harris. The injuries were there, but it looked like Joel was still going to suit up and play, and then they kind of pulled the plug on that last minute. And to get a little more in-depth on what the reporting was, this coming from Tim Bontemps, who was in the building here, he writes, quote, after going through his typical pregame workout ahead of the game, the team's medical personnel didn't like how the NBA's reigning MVP was moving around and chose to shut him down for the game. Embiid was sporting a large wrap on his knee in the locker room before Saturday's game. Quote, not until about 20-25 to go on the clock, 76ers coach Nick Nurse said when asked when Embiid wouldn't be able to play. Quote, he didn't go out and do his regular warm-up, and the medical care team just didn't like what they saw, and they just decided that it was safer, much safer, for him not to play today. Embiid missed 3 games earlier this month with the same issue and appeared to tweak the knee again in Thursday's road loss to the Indiana Pacers, although it's unclear how much time he will miss with the injury this time around. Now, I'll mention that at the point of me recording this, the Sixers are set to take on the Portland Trail Blazers tonight. That Embiid currently listed as questionable, and I do think that the conversation should shift a little bit based on if he suits up or does not suit up for that game. I'll also make the note that he's now down to 6 games. He can only miss 6 more games to still be eligible for MVP this season. But obviously, the focus is his health. That Joel Embiid has yet to have a full playoff run in which he's been healthy, which honestly makes it all the more frustrating when we are seeing him miss these games, these precautions, because it has not worked in years past. Now, is there a legitimate chance that Joel Embiid went out there, warmed up, he didn't look good, the knee wasn't feeling good, and they ruled him out? Absolutely. But the steps leading up to that, once again, if you thought there was any chance that that was a possibility, he should have been on the injury report. That we've seen many games this season with Joel Embiid being questionable, and frankly, the Sixers process is very clearly Joel goes through his pregame routine, he sees how he feels, the training staff evaluates how he's cutting, how he's moving, what he looks like from a basketball perspective, and just movement on the court, and then the decision is made from here. That is a fine process, but the fact that this was hyped up, marketed as this MVP showdown, having it till right before tip-off is so incredibly frustrating and makes Joel look so bad. So I do think that the Sixers training staff deserves some blame. And the NBA seems to agree with this, that a report from Shams Charania is saying that Joel didn't enter the injury report, I'm told, until 15 minutes before tip-off, and for sure that's something that the league will have to review. So the NBA is reviewing this with the potential to be fined there, and frankly, they should be if this is how the process went down. Now, if you want to look at this super optimistically in the Joel Embiid lens, say after Thursday that he was dead set on playing in this game Saturday, that he wanted to make sure he played. He did not tell the training staff that he was having any sort of injury, said the knee felt fine after the game. It swelled up when he went home, and he ignored that he did not want them to know. Then he showed up Saturday, they look for it, and then it's clear that he's not moving the same way. Now, I think that's an ultra optimistic lens to the point where I don't think he deserves that type of, leash that I'm giving him on the things at that point, but certainly a possibility there. Now, a couple other conversations that I want to bring up here. It's just the overall mindset from Denver Nuggets fans, personnel, all these things. I get the frustration. It is wrong that Joel was not on the injury report, all these things. Quote from Mike Malone after this game, quote, I don't know how you go from being active, available, to out. I'm sure the league will do their due diligence because it's frowned upon. There also was a credentialed Nuggets reporter asking Nick Nurse after the game, not going to do him the justice of mentioning his name here, asking, what does this say about Joel Embiid's character that he did not play in this game? I thought Nick Nurse handled the question pretty well, that he looked right back at the report and said Joel Embiid was injured for this game. He could not play, did not elaborate further, and that's the right response there. But for a credentialed media member to have that type of accusation, essentially, that you know what you're getting at with that question, and once again, there are ways to ask this question, that you absolutely have every right to question, why was he pulled so short before tip-off? What happened? What were the events leading up to that? But to bring in character is frankly crazy, and this is not me sitting in my glass house throwing stones. That I've been in those press conference rooms. I was in the building in Philadelphia and I watched Joel drop 47 against Jokic last year. I remember Doc Rivers sitting down at that press conference right after saying that was the MVP of the league right now. Joel Embiid, you cannot hate on the talent, but you can be upset with this overall management, even the accusations of handling with kid gloves. I don't think this is Joel Embiid ducking Nikola Jokic specifically. Frankly, I think Joel wanted to play in this matchup, but you can't ignore kind of the questionable management surrounding things. That I don't understand why there was no mention in the injury report. And if that is true, that he was in their warm-ups, did not look the same, it's the right call to shut him down. That the bottom line is, especially in that Denver altitude air, which is still a factor that I want to bring up here, and I don't think it's because Joel was too out of shape to play in this game, but say he's going to be a little extra winded that he is. We know how Joel Embiid plays basketball, that at times it is not the most, cohesive of him running in a straight line, that he does. He flops, he hits the floor, he's flailing around, he hits the ground way more than I'm frankly comfortable with for a man his size, and way more than just kind of the average NBA player. So with those factors considered, when you add in the extra factor of him him likely being more tired because of the altitude, which is a real thing, even when people dismiss it. I mean, I get like these are the low-minute guys who aren't accustomed to this amount of minutes in an NBA game, but you looked midway through that game, Daniel House, Marcus Morris, Pat Bev, they're on their knees, they're winded, they're gasping, and frankly, I understand. They competed as hard as they possibly could and deserve credit for that. But if that's a factor in how Joel was going to look and you add in a little bit of instability in the knee, like it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation for the Sixers. That if they did force Joel out there with an undermanned crew and he went and made that knee injury worse, they're going to be absolutely flamed for it. And if Joel looked bad because he did not play up to his standard because the knee was bugging him, then he gets absolutely flamed as well. Now, I guess that brings me to my final point here of the Sixers should frankly not care about any of this. That this is for me to talk about, this is for people to tweet about, be fired up about, but from inside the Sixers organization, every single night it should be looked at as, I don't care what the public thinks. I don't care about MVP considerations. I don't care about getting him to a games limit. Look at Joel Embiid. How healthy is him? What is this knee injury? Because we still have yet to understand what he's dealing with. All that has ever been listed on the injury report has been knee swelling, knee soreness, things like that. None of those are injuries. Those are symptoms of an injury. Those are the results of an injury, that when there is an injury in the knee, those are how it shows up. But we still have no idea what exactly he's dealing with. So within the Sixers organization, they should have a more concrete idea of that. They should be looking at each specific game for what does this do to Joel. If he's healthy enough, is he good to go? He plays. If this is something that could lead to more issues down the line, you shut him down. And they should be more transparent. And frankly, I don't care if he's listed as questionable on the injury report for every single game for the rest of the season. Frankly, if they get fined for that, if they get fined for the management of this game, it would not surprise me if that's the route they go for the rest of the season. And I get it. Like, that is a more legitimate to me than what just happened on Saturday. So it is frustrating. I don't think Joel Embiid was ducking Nikola Jokic. I know that he historically dominates him, but it is fair. It loads all the ammo that the Nuggets people need, and it's very frustrating just overall how it went down. As a basketball fan, I'm very disappointed not to see the two best players in the entire sport go head-to-head on the biggest stage, especially after all the hype. As a Sixers fan, as a Joel Embiid fan, I'm mad that I did not get to see him get the better of Jokic for the whatever consecutive time in his career. I will make the note that he has not played in Denver since 2019, but also put the little asterisk next to that two of those games came in a span of 9+ games that he missed in each of those, dealing with legitimate injuries. I don't think it's as clear-cut ducking as possible, but I do think this is the Sixers medical staff handling things about as poorly as possible and setting Joel Embiid up for absolute failure. That has to stop. That can't keep going moving forward, and hopefully we do see this matchup in Denver in the NBA Finals. Thank you guys for watching this video. Share your frustrations with me in the comment. As a Joel guy, this is a tough one to bounce back, stick up for. I absolutely hate the optics of how all this went down. But in the long run, there is a real chance this is what was the right call. I'm very curious to see if he plays tonight against the Portland Trail Blazers. But I will be here every step of the way for the rest of the season, breaking things down, and hopefully with Joel Embiid in the lineup for the foreseeable future. Thank you guys once again. Make sure you're smashing that like button, hitting that subscribe, and I'll be talking with you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.